So we had a discussion. Do we want a story that branches at the end, that starts branching with, depending on what you do or don't do? And we decided we don't want to do that. And there's a reason for that. My feeling is, when you do that, when you start branching off the story to adjust to player actions, you start to support that. You have to come up with a weaker story. The story has to be loose and allow for these variations. And ultimately, I find at the end of the game, what happens is there's 3 different endings, and you get one ending and I get another ending. And then our discussion about the game becomes, what ending did you get? Or I just go online and I look at the other endings and go, oh, that's how it could have ended. I don't care about that. That's not the discussion I want players to have. I don't want players talking about, oh, was your ending better than mine? And what we want, I want players to be able to have the same experience. They play the same singular story, and they're able to talk about that story together. They're able to interpret it however they want. The way you interpret it could be very different from the way I interpret it, and that's when it's going to be interesting, and you start talking about that. At the same time, we still want players to be able to express themselves. That's absolutely important in Watch Dogs. And that's where, the tools we give you, making the city hackable, well, the combinations of hacking in that city are limitless. I'm actually curious to see how players are going to combine them in ways we hadn't anticipated. So it's there that we want players to be exploring and expressing themselves. The way they look at the profiler, the way that they interpret what the profiler information gives them, well, that's entirely players who are doing that. That's not us who are saying, this NPC who was convicted of fraud, you decide what you think about that guy. You decide you want to hack him because of that, or do you want to hack somebody else and get their money. That's where the players are going to start making choices. I think the power of the profiler is in the way that the combinations are systemic. So I don't know how they're going to turn out. I don't know what NPC what he's going to look like or she's going to look like in relation to the job, salary, and then whatever curious fact there is about the player. The one where I realized, when I first tested the game, I knew what we wanted out of the profiler. I didn't know if it would work the way we wanted, but there was a moment when I knew, okay, I was in combat, and there was a guy who was trying to kill me, and I was coming around behind him, and I had my profiler on, and as soon as I saw him, it suddenly said newlywed. And I had a flash where this guy who, was a certain class of, he was no longer just a class of enemy. He was suddenly a guy with a new wife. And in that moment, I suddenly realized profiler's going to work. The profiler is going to work because that guy suddenly became a real person. Now you can maybe take him down instead of killing him because it changes your perception of him. And that's what I think is great about the game. You're constantly being challenged in that sense. In small ways. You're making adjustments with just NPCs who normally, quite often, can just be obstacles. NPCs in the street. Or you're looking at your enemies purely as classes. Now we're asking you to look at them as people. Are there any Easter eggs to other Ubisoft games? I would say you should be looking for it. I'm not going to say what or when or where, but we like to have fun. We like the games. We have a lot of talk about Ubisoft Montreal. We have a lot of talk back and forth. So you saw that Assassins did a little nod to us in their games.
There was that.